Hi guys! So today we are talking about the reading strategy of imaging. Make sure you have your guided notes out and something to write with. Alright, so in my opinion, imaging is the easiest reading strategy to understand, but for some reason, sometimes it's the hardest one to actually practice. So what is imaging? It's the practice of mentally visualizing objects, events, or situations. So just like athletes have to mentally prepare and visualize plays and what they're going to do when they come up against opponents in games, just like that, reading requires mentally visualizing the words that you are reading playing out like a movie in your head. So imaging helps you to construct meaning as you listen and read. It makes it more realistic so that you remember it better. That's why a lot of times people remember movies better than books that they've read because they've seen the movies on the screen. Basically, imaging is like imagining the literature playing out in movie format in your head. So just like in your writing, details are very important to pay attention to in your reading. So sometimes it's a little bit tedious when authors throw in adjectives and adverbs and all this other description, but they do it for a reason. You need to pause and reflect and share what images are evoked by the author's words. Evoked is just a fancy way of saying, what do those words make you think of? And when you share that with someone else, it's interesting because they might have seen a different picture in their head. That doesn't mean that either of you are wrong. It just means that it's interesting to compare the meaning that you're making separately when you're reading the text. You should visualize the characters in the setting and in the story events. You never just want to picture a character floating in, the clouds, unless the story is actually set in the clouds. So you want to make mental notes of words that describe sight, sound, taste, smells, and feelings as you are reading. For example, what do you think you might be smelling in this picture of Tom and Jerry? Some Swiss cheese? Okay, so here's an example. You can see there's a cat there. It says, I made you a cookie, but I yeeted it. This is a poem, Fog, by Carl Sandburg. And what I would like you to do is just close your eyes and picture, it's a really short poem, just picture something in your head as I'm reading this. Preferably, I want you to picture whatever image comes to mind by the author's words. The fog comes on little cat feet. It sits looking over harbor and city on silent haunches, and then it moves on. Okay, you can open your eyes. So, what did you see? Did you see like a cat stalking through a city? Did you see a cloud coming through the city? Did you see a cloud that looks like a cat? Did you see something entirely different? That's what I'm talking about when I say you should compare your meaning that you've made with your friends, because somebody might have seen something a little different than you, and so it's interesting to compare those. Okay, so why visualizing? Well, it brings the text to life, making it more meaningful and more memorable. It helps you with all of the other reading strategies also, because if you're visualizing what you're reading, then you're making the movie in your head. You can remember it. It's easier to make connections, it's easier to summarize, it's easier to infer what's going on. Visualizing helps you remember details that you might otherwise forget. For example, part of what made the movie Dumb and Dumber so memorable was the orange and baby blue tuxedos. And if you have forgotten, let me just refresh your memory.
Thanks, Barn. There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Nice! Yes! Time out! Okay.
Excuse me, gentlemen. This is a $500 plate dinner. Good night.
Oh, 500. Oh, okay. All right, no problem. Here, put us down for 4. In case we want seconds.
Okay, so obviously part of what made that scene funny was the fact that they were wearing the bright orange and blue tuxedos, which made the, the host or the greeter, whatever you want to call that guy, not take them seriously. Okay, so here is another passage, and I want you to think about what you are picturing in your head while you listen. The silky ebony kitten tottered clumsily down the rough pavement of the bustling city sidewalk. Suddenly, a large, muscular man sprinted up behind the innocent feline and abrasively seized it. He tossed the black cat in the air, cast his leg back, and in a swift, strong motion, punted it like a football high into the warm afternoon sun. Okay, so this is a real news story. If you go online, you can find a news clip about it. For those of you who were concerned, the guy was taken to jail and a $50,000 bail was set. The kitten is safe and is up for adoption. Thank goodness. If any of you thought that was funny, there's something wrong with you. But anyway, getting back to it, there are so many different things you could have pictured there. For example, if you didn't know that the word ebony meant like a black charcoal-y color, then you might have been visualizing a completely different color cat. And there's a lot of details going on in there. So some of you might have picked up on the fact that the man was muscular, and others of you might not have had a certain physique in your mind for what the man looked like, which is why it's important to read and then reread to make sure that you capture all of the important information. So maybe some of you saw this. This is just a joke that's supposed to be the mayor of Toronto. They captured him punting a ball at a football game, and so then there were images springing up of him everywhere kicking stuff. So here's one of him kicking a cat. Highly doubt any of you pictured that, unless, of course, you had seen a picture like this before. And not sure that any of you would have seen a soccer player, as those details were not in the little passage, but I thought it was entertaining nonetheless. The cat looks just a little bit surprised. Okay, and then with this last passage, again, I would like you to close your eyes and try to picture what you see. The clear blue water danced in the hot sunlight, and the palm trees swayed to the gentle rhythm of the wind. Tiny crabs scuttled across the soft white sand, while small and large fish of bright, vibrant colors lazed in the water close to the shoreline. All was at peace in the world. Okay, so open your eyes, look at the words on the screen, reread it. Are there any details you might have missed the first time you listened that you could add to your movie that you're picturing in your head? For example, did you catch the sunlight dancing in the air, maybe playing tricks on your eyes because it's so bright? Did you catch that the palm trees were swaying in the wind? Did you picture little crabs? I wonder how the crabs that you pictured compared to the crabs that your friends might have pictured. What kind of fish did you see? So let's just look at some possibilities. How many of you saw an image similar to this, where there's palm trees hanging out there, you got a beautiful tropical setting, white sand? Did anybody actually picture a hammock with someone sitting in it, or an empty hammock? All right, these are coconut crabs. Did any of you picture crabs that look like this? It said tiny crabs, so these are not necessarily tiny. There are crabs that are tinier than this. And did you see fish? If so, what kind of fish did you see? Doesn't look like it wants to go here. But if we just go real quick to Google Images and we search for some tropical fish, here we go. Did you see fish that looked anything like this? I mean, you have so many different fish here that you could have pictured. And what would be interesting too is if there were people who didn't picture any fish, or you didn't picture bright, colorful fish. What that would tell me is, one, maybe you need to reread it, or two, maybe you've never been exposed to tropical fish and you just weren't aware that they were so bright and vibrant. Look, you've got a Nemo right over here. But anyway, hopefully seeing these pictures has made this PowerPoint a little bit more entertaining for you. Seeing the video of Dumb and Dumber might have livened up that part of it. But the whole point of it is It's the same while you're reading. If you're practicing the imaging strategy, you're going to enjoy what you're reading more. And yeah, it does require brain power. You have to use your brain, and so people who are lazy want to just read through it as fast as they can and not use any brain power, but that's pretty much just a waste of time because they're not going to remember what they read. So imaging will bring the words to life and help you to remember what you read, and hopefully just make for an overall more enjoyable experience. So in a nutshell, that's imaging. If you guys have any questions, we're going to be talking about it and practicing it in class tomorrow. So see you then.